I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Carried. Well done, everybody. Okay, so while we're on a roll of bringing things forward, I'm going to bring number 14 forward, which means you're up, Bruce, because it needed to be done before 12 o'clock if possible. So we'll do that one now. No, he's been done. Okay. Thank you.
So what we have in front of you today is the Greater Christchurch Partnerships Housing Action Plan. I've got Lucy with me. Lucy has been the driving force. If you don't know Lucy, she's a ball of energy and really pushes things along, so she's done a great job on this. The plan aims to pull the few levers that we have, because we don't have a lot of levers to drive housing affordability, but to look at options that we can do both ourselves and in partnership with the other councils in the Greater Christchurch area to try and improve housing affordability. Particularly focuses on land type issues, which is items 1 and 2, and as well looks at some more funding type and cost saving type items, which is through items 3, 4 and 5. I'd commend it to you. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Harrison-Hunt.
Kia ora. This is for you, Bruce. Just for public knowledge, if we adopt this, what does that do to our workflow going internally?
So in terms of what it will do, we will focus initially particularly on items 1 and 2, which is around looking at databases of potentially council land that could be released for affordable housing outcomes, and also looking at mechanisms that might make better use of those and testing council's appetite for those. At the moment, when we generally dispose of land, we look at getting a market return from that. We want to test through this council's appetite for reduced margin, or potentially retaining and just putting the leasehold out on the market if it's going to achieve other outcomes for the council. So that's the political decisions. We need your input into that.
Great. I wanted to bring that to light. So thanks, Bruce. Cheers.
Councillor Scandrett, then Councillor Johansson.
With regards to bringing the cost of building down, would we look at, I've talked to a number of people now who are buying their internal workings for property, that building from Australia, because you can get the same product with about, I think that on the average they were saying it's about a third to a quarter of the price that you can get it in New Zealand. Yep. So whilst we have land and we sell or give it away or however it is to achieve that affordability, the build cost is still the same, whereas the build cost in Australia is a hell of a lot less for the same product. So are we looking in the future at other things? Because it does seem to me we're in a cost of living crisis, but we're also a council under pressure by our ratepayers saying they do not want to have increased rates. So we are, I don't know the answer, but I'm just like,
so I can help you with that, Councillor. So the cost of materials and some of how that relates to build cost is being looked at, but more at a national level across the whole nation. So that's something that's a lever that central government can influence and has been doing work in that space. From our perspective, that then comes to our building consenting area, where we want to see if there's approvals for those, we do it in the most efficient way as possible, which is once nationally rather than each council having to certify materials from overseas each through. The levers that we can look at, we've already done in the social housing space a development contribution rebate scheme that's benefited 19 developments to a tune of just over $1 million. So reducing build costs there. And one of the actions that is here is to test the various councils' willingness, first of all, to extend that from Christchurch to the other two Greater Christchurch Partnership councils, and also to see is there any appetite to extend that into the affordable market. But again, that's a decision of councillors, and that's where we'll give you more advice on that as we implement this plan.
Okay. Councillor Johansson, please.
Yeah, thank you. I've read back through the UDS actions from 2007, and most of them are, pretty identical to what we're being asked to do here, which is just to investigate. I'm just trying to understand why we haven't got to a point where we've actually delivered on the actions with decisions about the things that we are investigating, because it feels like this is a plan to come up with another plan before we make a decision. And I'm just trying to understand, given its delay, it's about 4 years, I think, from when we originally thought we were going to get this information, how we can make sure that these things actually happen in a timely manner.
So I think probably I haven't had a good chance to review the 2007 plan. I looked at the 2016, the most recent version of the UDS, and we've implemented all of those housing items in that one. I think we're referring to in the 2007 one relates to inclusionary zoning. That has been looked at a greater Christchurch level, and they've had reports on that. The advice we would say on that is we should not unilaterally adopt that, because that will change development patterns and could drive development into the other areas. So some of the implementation will need all parties working together to be able to get good, sensible outcomes. In terms of what we're doing, we're actually doing an awful lot. We, through our financing, through release of land, through our partnerships and our advocacy, have seen over 200 social houses built, new social houses. We've got affordable housing currently being in construction in 2 locations, New Brighton and in Summerfield. So our work is producing results, and we'll continue to work on that tangible work, as well as working with our partners to implement this plan.
Is there a clear goal for what we're trying to achieve?
In your overall strategic priorities, you look at wishing that the community has the choice for affordable, secure, warm, dry housing. So that is what constantly drives us. That's the goal that you've set for us.
So if we wanted to set more specific goals, e.g. Raising the rate of home ownership for Pacifica community, given that they've got one of the lowest rates, or if we wanted to address, for example, reducing the number of children, I think it's saying there's 700 children in emergency housing in Canterbury or Greater Christchurch, I'm not sure exactly of the area. If we wanted to make tangible goals to address those things, what's the best way to do it?
Our advice to you would be, don't do it alone. Council has very limited levers in this space. Housing is a complex system. So that would be the initial advice. Don't do it alone. Look at working with government and advocacy on those points, which is already underway, and we do raise those points throughout.
Thank you, Bruce. Great answer. Councillor Coker, please.
This was just in the timeline. So that phase 1, those 8 action points all for this year. Are you planning to get them all start of this year completed as well, or what's sort of the time frame?
Yes, completed is the aim. Some of the work is already in anticipation, is already underway. I just draw your attention to later in the report. It talks about some of the items, and particularly things around the inclusionary zoning, will need a lot of input from the strategic planners. There is potentially going to be further reform of the planning system that will occur this year, so that may impact on our ability to deliver this work. So we just will, at the moment it looks fine, but we will put that caveat on it.
Okay, right. Thank you, Councillor Cotter. Are you moving it? No. I thought you were.
No, I was just going to ask.
Fire away.
It's okay. Sarah's happy to move. Just looking at the demographic part of this, and we're looking at, with the ageing population, 1 to 2 people in the house, and you haven't got the data for Australia here, but you've got the UK and France of 45 people per 155. They're around 2. But then, and because we've got a predominance of 3 and 4 bedroom houses, and they're not really being used for all those rooms, I mean, shouldn't we be looking at encouraging people to coexist in these houses rather than just building 1 and 2 bedrooms? And how do we look into the future and say, well, it might all turn around and we might need 3 and 4s later? I mean, how do you address that challenge?
Yeah. One of the things that's occurring, particularly in Christchurch, is that the most most houses that are being built, the percentage-wise, is in the 2-bedroom. So that is occurring already. What we suspect, and we need to do some more digging into those demographics, is that it's not universally spread, so that people can't necessarily say age and place with 2 bedrooms being built in the suburbs. And we need to also look at the price points for those 2 bedrooms as well, and see whether there's a variety of price points that meet needs. But the market is building 2-bedroom units, and if I look at the most recent figures, December, it was significantly above 3s, 4s, etc. It's different in our partner councils. They tend to be 3 and 4 bedrooms and larger houses. So certainly there is change occurring in that space.
Yeah.
In terms of what we can do for what I'm proposing, my understanding your question was about sharing unused
Possibly,
bedrooms.
yeah.
We've probably got limited ability to influence in that space, but that might be something we can have a look at and explore in phase 2 of this plan.
And the thing is that, and I can't find it now, but there was the response from the youth sector in here saying they really support the intensification, and that's what we're seeing, a vast array of 2-bedroom pokey units, which I call over-intensification, but they're also saying they need to be design-led, and that is not what we're seeing. So how can we influence that? And hopefully it's not too late.
Yeah, we've focused in this plan on affordability rather than design aspects. That perhaps something I can take up and have a discussion with my city planning colleagues on the more of the design aspects.
Yeah, I mean, affordability is only going to come with larger numbers, and it's a supply and demand issue, isn't it? Because the housing that we're seeing built now, the very small units, they're not actually affordable either. But that will come in time as we get the numbers up. But in the meantime, we are destroying the character of certain areas. So it's finding that balance of intensification and not over-intensification and losing all the amenity. So do we address that through the district plan then, or?
That's certainly one of the key areas. And good work, Mark.
Mark.
Yes, the district plan is the method by which we manage the design outcomes and how a development fits into the context. Plan Change 14 we can update you on separately. The Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan though does set out outcomes for the city, and that includes quality environments and neighbourhoods, and there's some key messages in the spatial plan about that, and that was added to by the panel who made recommendations
So
to
it's
council.
making them both fit together somehow. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Scandrett. And then we'll go into debate.
Thank you. 2 quick ones. First of all, so this isn't prioritising land. So if we have a block of land for sale, we can still, Mark, don't go away, I've got one for you, the second one's for you. With regards to the land will not have priority for social housing, because we do need to get some, if it's going to be a better return for the ratepayers of Christchurch to sell it as a commercial block or whatever. So it's just weighing it all up, so it's not a done deal. This is just assisting.
Definitely not a done deal. We would bring those back. You just ask us already in policy, and this just reinforces it, to consider housing uses for this land.
Right.
So we do that, but we do need to come back to you on each case on that.
Thank you. Mark, just with the comment that, or the question that Deputy Mayor asked, how do intensification is, I think personally, is a good idea, but it's got to be done well. But if you go to Addington and there are others, some buildings are absolute dogs. They look absolute like lipstick on a pig. How do we change that? Because there are others that are doing the same thing, getting more people in an area, and they look great, and they are actually adding to the community. How do we get rid of the pigs with lipstick for the
Perhaps
future.
we could, because that's not directly relevant to this paper, perhaps we can touch on that when Mark's up here later on for the
Spatial
planning.
plan.
We do,
Yeah.
we do spend a lot of money trying to or discuss intensification, and one of the issues with intensification, which is costing us and our staff time, is trying to argue the government's case because there are ugly buildings and poorly built buildings.
So that will come to that later.
Righto, we'll rip into debate. Who would like to go first? Anyone? Councillor Johansson?
Yeah.
We've got that.
Oh, yeah, so Councillor Harrison Hunt's going to move it and I'm going to second it. Oh, sorry, were you going to second it? I've done enough. All right, Councillor. In a couple of people, just grab a couple of names. Right, Councillor Johansson, sorry, debate.
Thank you. I welcome this plan coming to us, although I am concerned that this is more of a plan to develop a plan rather than actually making decisions on tangible actions. The reality is that this is 4 years overdue. When we originally started out on this journey, aside from the UDS, we actually were supposed to get a draft action plan in February 2020, and that plan was supposed to align with the district plan reviews in April 2020 and integrate with our annual plans in June 2020, and also feed into the previous round of long-term plans. And the problem with getting this so late in the piece is we've just put our draft LTP out for consultation, and we've just, many councils have already started their district plan reviews without the ability to put in actions to specifically address social and affordable housing. I think the other concern that I have, although I appreciate that there's more details to come back as the work continues, is that we do kind of lack tangible, clear goals to know that we're going to make a difference. And to see that we still need to develop a framework for monitoring and measuring, I think is quite concerning, because we've had an urban development strategy, which should have been doing that from 2007. If you go back and read that housing actions around affordable housing in that 2007-2008 document, what you see is that we've actually just spent a lot of time reinventing the wheel without focusing on why things haven't been delivered and what we need to do to get things delivered. And the sad reality is that because of our lack of action and the delays that have occurred, in the meantime, Christchurch has become even more unaffordable, especially if you look at what's happened with the COVID impact on things like property prices and the affordability of rents. So although I'm not happy with the lack of progress, I'm not happy with the lack of specific goals, because in my view, we need to start addressing the intergenerational inequity that exists in our city. And one of the best ways we can do that is to look at the greater provision of raising home ownership in communities and in groups where it is low, and also look at having long-term, affordable, secure rentals, not just dealing at the high end with the highest needs around things like social and community housing and emergency housing, which is important and does need to happen. But if we want to make a difference over time, we have to start taking a much more strategic approach. And so I hope that this document starts us on that journey. The reality is that we have rezoned so much land in our greater Christchurch area post-earthquake, and without having any of those affordable mechanisms to get inclusionary zoning or to require additional benefits that go to the private developers who get the benefit of rezoning that land back to the community and back to dealing with the social realities, we've seen Selwyn and Waimak have the highest number of covenants excluding social housing from being built in their districts, and us as a city are picking up that increase in demand. So I'll support this today, but I think we need to continue the focus on getting it delivered and make sure the resources are there to do it.
I will support this today. I think it's actually, in some ways, I think it's actually relatively ambitious to get all of this done this year. And it's actually going, if you look at the comments on the actions there, it's going to take us as a council and other bodies as well to actually start talking about housing and how, one of the ones is what will be our appetite to accept lower financial return in exchange for achieving housing outcomes. So that will be on us to decide if we support housing more than the financial outcomes. And it will be for ratepayers to fund this in some ways, but that's all about looking after others And I hope that as a council, that we take this seriously when this comes back to us and we discuss this, thinking about the people of Christchurch who need help in housing. So thanks.
Okay, yeah, then you, Tim. Yep.
Thank you. I just want to thank staff for this is a step forward, and it's a hard area because everyone's an expert, as we've heard. But I just want to thank staff, to Bruce and your team, for trying to move this forward as you do. Cheers.
Okay, I'm going to support this to the hilt because being round at Greater Christchurch Partnership and seeing Lucy in action with all the enthusiasm that she has, it's hard to stop her, and Bruce hit the nail on the head. We are doing a lot of good stuff with Otatahi Housing Trust. We've got affordable housing getting built at the moment. I think Carey Street's got 9. There's some others that have been sold down there to Naito Hereri's business arm for them, that everyone is working very well together to do the best they can. The main thing is to make something affordable. Otatahi Housing Trust are hanging on to the land and just selling the house to the person so they can buy it. So say, for argument's sake, it's $600,000. They only have to buy the house, which is only $300,000. They borrow the money on that. It gets them in the door to own something. They can then sell it, and they get paid. Yeah, they can sell it, and then someone else moves in and does exactly the same thing. It gives people a step on the first rung of the ladder of home ownership that, sadly, some people can save their guts out and never get enough deposit to start. So this is certainly a step in the right direction. So I'll be supporting this all the way. Thank you. Right. Anyone else? Okay, I'd like to put that motion. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Thank you very much. Right, shall we have a wee cup of tea? Because the next one's resident